A gracious good day to one and all once again. 'Tis I, Norton the First, by grace of God, Emperor of the United States and Protector of Mexico. Back with you all once again for episode number 154 of Emperor Norton's fantastic San Francisco history vlog. Today is October 15, 2020. Our 213th day under COVID-19. A few programming notes to begin with. Don't forget to check out the podcast. We're now on Spotify and numerous other platforms. And for our podcast listeners who are new, welcome. We appreciate you. You may notice that we are wearing a different hat today than we normally do. That's because when we looked at the tape from the previous episode, we noticed that in the purple hat, there were some green feathers that when you're dealing with a green screen like we are in the background, of course you're seeing something else entirely, but there's a green screen behind me, and when you are dealing with a green screen, anything green becomes transparent. So we're trying a different hat today. This is an interesting hat too. It has a story. What doesn't? This is the original hat that we used to do our tours. This hat was purchased in London in 1974. It is from Walter Barnard and Son, 97 Jermyn Street, pardon me, St. James, London. This hat we kept for many, many years, and when we took back to the streets, this was the perfect hat for us. It served us well for about 7.5 years, but it's a little valuable. It's real authentic beaver from the 1800s. We decided it had deteriorated enough. It wore like iron, still does, but we thought we would switch to a different and more colorful hat and preserve this one. So we'll see how it looks today with the new technology. Hope you liked it on the other vlog, the previous one. That was 2 days ago. And we'll see how it works out for the future. We will not have a vlog, I believe it's on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. We'll let you know that later on, probably tomorrow or Saturday. Imperial business. And don't forget, we are taking the last week of October off. And we will be back the first week of November with a slightly revamped show. It's going to be just once a week. Instead of looking back, we're going to look forward. I think forward's that way. And it's going to be more of an almanac. We will still do the Saturday show with the Countess. And the once a week will probably be on Wednesdays, possibly Thursdays. We shall see. Well, let us begin with our national days. It is the 14th. We're covering the 14th and the 15th day because we skipped a day. So the 14th was National Dessert Day. Oh, that sounds good. Bring your teddy bear to work day. Okay. Pet Obesity Awareness Day. Don't let your pets get fat. Emergency Nurses Day. Hats off to them, especially in this COVID era. National Fossil Day. Well, we love fossils. We are a fossil, I suppose. And National Face Your Fears Day. I guess I need to walk across the Golden Gate Bridge. That always gives me a little bit of trouble. What's your fear? Let us know in the comments down below. Moving on to the 15th, National Grouch Day. No, not National Groucho Day. National Grouch Day. Breast Health Day, ladies. Get your mammograms. Get them checked. White cane, pardon me, a little typo there. White cane safety day for the people who are visually impaired. Get to know your customers day. Okay, we'll just leave that one right there. Now moving on to Florida Man. We have two today, of course. First one. Florida man flew to Chicago to cut off ex-girl's man's penis. Why do so many Florida man stories have that? Don't know. Oh dear, and I seem to have the same story for both days. What was the other one? Can't remember. Sorry about that. Had a little typo there today. Oh well. Well, let's move on to our San Francisco stories, and as we so often do, we rely on John Ralston's book, This Date in San Francisco, because it was on October 14, 1911, that President William Howard Taft breaks ground for the Panama Pacific International Exposition, the PPIE. As early as 1904, San Francisco's business community was aware that the Panama Canal's completion, although 10 years away, would be a significant opportunity to publicize San Francisco's new connection to the eastern seaboard and the transatlantic world. R.B. Hale of the Merchants Association got his fellow merchants interested in an international exposition. The destruction of retail and commercial in San Francisco in the earthquake and fire of 1906 was a huge setback. But in 1909, a successful festival commemorating the 140th anniversary of the discovery of San Francisco Bay by Don Gaspar de Portola demonstrated that the city was recovering. A corporation was organized in 1910 and an initial $4 million of stock was subscribed. The House of Representatives was practically about to designate New Orleans as the site of the Panama Pacific International Exposition of 1915, but after an aggressive campaign by San Francisco representatives, it chose San Francisco. On February 15, 1911, President William Howard Taft signed a document making it official. When the news reached San Francisco, it partied all night. Well, we don't need an excuse to do that here. On October 13, 1911, Taft arrived in California by train from Oregon, met in Red Bluff by Governor Hiram Johnson, his staff, and University of California President Benjamin Ide Wheeler. Taft continued to Sacramento, where he was met by PPIE President Charles C. Moore and others, and on to Oakland, where he laid the cornerstone of the new city hall there. Crossing the bay on the tug Slocum, Taft was hosted at the San Francisco Press Club reception and a banquet for 900 at the new Palace Hotel, opened in 1909 to replace the original that was destroyed in 1906. On Saturday, October 14, parades and motorcades went west from Golden Gate and Van Ness Avenues to Golden Gate Park Stadium, now the Polo Grounds, where an estimated 100,000, which are speeches and music, watched President Taft turn the first shovelful of earth for the PPIE's construction. The groundbreaking, like so many others, was strictly symbolic, the site of the PPIE not having yet been formally designated. So, of course, it went on to open in 1915, was hugely successful, one of the most beautiful World's Fairs ever. And if you'd like to learn more about it, don't forget to pick up Jewel City by Laura Ackley, a wonderful, wonderful book, lavishly illustrated and a great history on the best World's Fair ever. Well, let's move on to October 15, 1855. St. Ignatius Academy begins, the precursor to the University of San Francisco. On November 1st, 1854, Jesuit Father Anthony Maracci, born in Piedmont, Italy in 1820, arrived in San Francisco with two other Jesuits after serving at St. Francis Church on Vallejo Street and St. Patrick's on Market. Father Maracci applied to Archbishop Joseph S. Alemany Boulevard, for permission to build a church and college. Market Street ended around 3rd in those days, and the father, reasoning correctly that San Francisco would expand west, arranged for the Jesuit missions of California and Oregon to purchase for $11,500 a lot of 275 feet square owned by Thomas O. Larkin Street, on the south side of Market, where 4th Street is now. That's about where the old Emporium was. The area had been dignified with the name of St. Anne's Valley, but the valley was changing and irregular due to drifting sand dunes. A plain gabled roof building about 75 by 75 feet was dedicated as St. Ignatius Church on July 15, 1855. Two buildings were added. One was a residence west of the church with 2 rooms and a kitchen and a garret. The other was a school about 20 feet behind the church and about 25 feet wide and 40 feet long. On October 15, the second building opened at St. Ignatius Academy. Attendance was just 3 male pupils, only one of whose names, Richard McCabe, survives in history. Of course, that would go on to become the University of San Francisco, which is still with us. Let's move on to our other history for today. Starting with the 14th, 1586, Mary, Queen of Scots, goes on trial for conspiracy against Queen Elizabeth I. 1834, the first African American is granted a U.S. patent, Henry Blair, for a corn planter. 1884, George Eastman patents paper strip photographic film. 1892, Arthur Conan Doyle publishes The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, a collection of 12 stories originally published serially in the Strand magazine. This one's going to be a little bit long because it's a great story. Didn't want to pass it up. 1912, Bull Moose candidate Teddy Roosevelt shot while campaigning in Milwaukee. He was just running for president and on the Bull Moose Party. Theodore Roosevelt's opening line was hardly remarkable for a presidential campaign speech. Quote, "Friends, I shall ask you to be quiet as possible. Be as quiet as possible," unquote. His second line, however, was a bombshell. Quote, "I don't know whether you fully understand that I have just been shot." Clearly, Roosevelt had buried the lead. The horrified audience in Milwaukee Auditorium on October 14, 1912, gasped as the former president unbuttoned his vest to reveal his blood-stained shirt. "It takes more than that to kill a bull moose," the wounded candidate assured them. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a bullet-riddled 50-page speech. Holding up his prepared remarks, which had 2 big holes blown through each page, Roosevelt continued, "Fortunately, I had my manuscript. So you see, I was going to make a long speech, and there was a bullet. There is where the bullet went through, and it possibly saved me from it going to my heart. The bullet is in me now, so I cannot make a very long speech, but I will try my best. I give you my word, I do not care a rap about being shot. Not a rap," he claimed. Few would doubt him. Although his voice weakened and his breath shortened, Roosevelt glared at his nervous aides whenever they begged him to stop speaking or positioned themselves around the podium to catch him if he collapsed. Only with the speech completed did he agree to visit the hospital. The shooting had occurred just after 8 p.m. as Roosevelt entered his car outside the Gilpatrick Hotel. As he stood up in the open-air automobile and waved his hat with his right hand to the crowd, a flash from a Colt revolver 5 feet away lit up the night. The candidate's stenographer quickly put the would-be assassin in a half Nelson and grabbed the assailant's right wrist to prevent him from firing a second shot. Isn't that incredible? Moving on. 1926, A.A. Milne's book, Winnie the Pooh, is released. I still have my original copy. 1947, Chuck Yeager in the Bell XS-1 makes the first supersonic flight, Mach 1.015. Chuck Yeager is now 97 years old. 1964, Martin Luther King Jr. is announced as the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. 1964 as well, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev is replaced by Leonid Brezhnev as General Secretary of the Soviet Communist Party. 1968, the first live telecast from a manned U.S. spacecraft, Apollo 7. 1968, the Beatles complete the White Album. 1971, John Lennon and Yoko Ono appear on the Dick Cavett Show. Those are legendary interviews. If you get a chance to see it, it's on the YouTube. Check it out. They're wonderful. 1979, the first gay and lesbian civil rights march on Washington is attended by over 100,000 people. That was called for by Harvey Milk before his death, and luckily it ended up happening. There have actually been 3. I know the last one was in 2000. I think the previous one was 1989, if I remember right. Don't quote me if I'm wrong. 1986, the Nobel Peace Prize is awarded to Auschwitz survivor Elie Wiesel for his efforts to ensure the Holocaust was remembered. 1994, the Nobel Peace Prize is awarded to Yasser Arafat, Yitzhak Rabin, and Shimon Peres for bringing peace to the Middle East. Well, sort of. Moving on to the 15th of October, 1815, Napoleon Bonaparte arrives on the island of St. Helena to begin his exile. 1860, pardon me, 11-year-old Grace Bedell writes to Abraham Lincoln telling him to grow a beard. 1863, the Cliff House opens in San Francisco, one of many on that site. What we have as the backdrop today is the Victorian one from right around the turn of the 20th century that burned not too long after the Great San Francisco earthquake, unfortunately. Isn't it beautiful? 1880, the Cologne Cathedral is completed in Germany 633 years after it was begun, one of the most beautiful cathedrals in the world. We have had the privilege of visiting it. 1888, German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche decides to write his autobiography on his 44th birthday. And you know, there's nothing Nietzsche couldn't teach you about the raising of the wrist. Monty Python fans will understand. 1917, Dutch exotic dancer Mata Hari is executed by firing squad for spying for Germany during World War I. 1924, Andre Breton publishes his Surrealist Manifesto. 1937, Ernest Hemingway publishes To Have or to Have Not. 1939, LaGuardia Airport in New York City opens. 1940, The Great Dictator, a satiric social commentary film by and starring Charlie Chaplin, is released. If you've never seen it, it's a great, great movie. 1941, the first mass deportation of German Jews to Eastern Europe. 1951, I Love Lucy, starring Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, debuts on CBS. Lucy, I'm home! Wah. 1952, Charlotte's Web by E.B. White and is published. 1966, the Black Panther Party, created by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, is founded in Oakland. 1969, the Bank of America World Headquarters, 555 California Street, is dedicated, but it is now occupied mainly by Microsoft. I guess they chose it because it has so many windows. 1969 is Vietnam Moratorium Day. Millions nationwide protest the war in Vietnam. Year 2000, Larry David's Curb Your Enthusiasm debuts on HBO. I've seen it. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Now, 2017, actress Alyssa Milano tweets, if you've been sexually harassed or assaulted, write Me Too. Prompts a flood of replies from across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, the beginning of the Me Too movement. Let us now move on to our births for today. 1644, William Penn, English philosopher, Quaker, and founder of Pennsylvania, is born in London. 1890, Dwight D. Eisenhower, the 34th President of the United States and World War II general. 1893, Lillian Gish, American silent film and stage actress. She was in Birth of a Nation. 1894, E.E. Cummings, the poet, is born. 1916, C. Everett Koop, the 13th U.S. Surgeon General. 1927, Roger Moore, British actor, the Saint, and, of course, James Bond. Sorry, we're a Sean Connery fan. Okay. We're a Sean Connery fan. 1938, John Dean, a pivotal figure in the Watergate scandal. 1939, fashion designer Ralph Lauren. 1952, Harry Anderson, American actor and magician, was, of course, famous for Night Court. 1958, Thomas Dolby, new wave rock singer and musician. She blinded me with science. Science. 1974, Natalie Maines, a musician. The Dixie Chicks, or now as they're simply known, the Chicks. Moving on to our births for the 15th. 1844, once again, Friedrich Nietzsche. 1900, Mervyn LeRoy, American film producer. He was born in San Francisco. 1917, American historian Arthur M. Schlesinger Jr. won the Pulitzer Prize in 1946. 1920, another writer, Mario Puzo, the Godfather, just to name a number of his books. 1924, speaking of books, although he's more famous as an auto executive, the creator of the Mustang, former president of Chrysler, Lee Iacocca. You know, there was a time if you walked into a thrift store, you would always find his autobiography, Iacocca. 1937, actor Linda Lavin from Alice and Barney Miller. 1943, Penny Marshall, actor and director, of course, Laverne and Shirley. Let's see, Schlemiel, Schlemazel, Hoff and Pfeffer Incorporated. And how many people that actually watch that show know the meanings of Schlemiel and Schlemazel? Get a copy of The Joys of Yiddish and look it up. 1959, Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, Fergie. 1959, Emeril Lagasse, the famous TV chef. Bam! Moving on to our deaths for today. 1944, Erwin Rommel, German field marshal in World War II, commits suicide at the age of 52. 1959, Errol Flynn, the actor, Captain Blood, Robin Hood. Anybody ever go to the Errol Flynn estate in Hollywood and it was sitting there deteriorating for decades? I don't know if it's still there or not. Maybe if you know, leave it in the comments down below. 1977, Bing Crosby. 1986, actor Keenan Wynn. 1990, Leonard Bernstein, or Bernstein, depending upon your preference. Composer, New York Philharmonic, conductor of, wrote the music for West Side Story. And if you ever get a chance, once again, go on the YouTube. There's a wonderful rendition of him simultaneously conducting and playing piano for Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. It's amazing. 1997, the salacious novelist Harold Robbins. 1998, Cleveland Emery, American writer and animal advocate, The Cat and the Curmudgeon, the big series he wrote about his white cat. 2009, Captain Lou Albano, American professional wrestler and manager, but you might remember him from the videos with Cyndi Lauper, especially Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Let's move on to the 15th. In 1946, Hermann Goering, Nazi Reich Marshal, poisons himself in Spandau prison at the age of 53. 1964, the great composer and lyricist Cole Porter. 1983, the actor Pat O'Brien. We just saw him last night in the movie Hell House with Bette Davis, although she's not in it all that much. It's one of her earliest films. 2012, Norton Sihanouk, King of Cambodia. Hats off to monarchs. And 2018, Paul Allen, co-founder of Microsoft, owner of the Portland Trail Blazers and the Seattle Seahawks. Our quote today, we end with Nietzsche. That which does not kill us makes us stronger. Nonetheless, don't take any chances with COVID, okay? Which brings us to our end today. So, here is the information. If you would like to leave a tip, we accept tips via Venmo, PayPal, and, Venmo and PayPal. You can also do a monthly subscription on Patreon. If you want more information for our podcast listeners, just shoot off an email to emperornortontour@gmail.com and we will send you information on how to become a supporter of this vlog and podcast. And we appreciate greatly all of our generous donors. If you would like to know more about the tours that the Countess and I used to do, and we will be starting up again on Saturday, November 7th, every Saturday at 11 a.m. from Union Square. Now, if you go to emperornortontour.com, click on the Book Now button. Tours are limited to 10 people. Masks and social distancing required, absolutely required. We will not be going into any interior spaces, and we will have plenty of hand sanitizers. We are going to do this right and do it safely. So until we meet again, stay safe, stay inside if you're feeling symptoms. If you do go outside, however, wear a mask. It's such a simple thing to do. It doesn't take away your freedom. It doesn't make you less macho. It protects others and protects yourself. Do not take unproven cures that might kill you. Be kind to one another. Until we see you again, a gracious good day.